Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This will be student feedbacks after the week 13. So we have officially one more week to go, and recently there are not that many feedback that is obtained from the students, from all of you. I'm not sure why. There are several possibilities. One is that there's no problem, hence no feedback to be given. And I'm hoping that is the case. I'm hoping it is the case that everything is fine, everything is okay, and nothing need to be conveyed to me. And I'm sincerely hope that it is not the other case where, for example, it is like sign of giving up or do not care anymore, or why bother, because nothing matter anymore. So I'm hoping that because there are still time to prepare for the final exam that will give you 50% of the full marks. So even if your carry mark is quite low, of course there are also some quizzes left. I think there's at least one, maybe one more, because we only have 1 week left, right? Yeah, so anything do, and I do appreciate for those students that still give some feedback, even though yeah, we will see. So this is one of the feedback. As I mentioned, there's not that many, so there's only one student that gave on any particular sessions. For the session that do not have any feedback, I'm not showing it here. So clear and understand, so this is okay, alhamdulillah. Hopefully everything is okay. I'm hoping this is representative. Next, the quiz is straightforward but tricky. Interesting comment, because on one hand it is straightforward, but on the other hand it is tricky. I'm assuming that it is straightforward to understand the question, but it's tricky to solve. That's just my assumption. But yeah, hopefully you familiarize yourself. If you find that quiz question is having some tricky parts, make sure you identify why is it tricky, so that after this, if you face the same question, it become all straightforward. Meaning, obviously, you have to solve each question, and yeah, there's some calculation, etc. So there will be some challenges there, but my concern is when you say tricky, if you mean that you don't really know whether to use this or that, etc. I hope that is resolved, right? Alright, so next comment. A bit confusing about this chapter, either to use the equations or the parallel axis theorem. What does this mean? Because parallel axis theorem has its own equation. So okay, so parallel axis theorem, we do use it in, of course, in calculation of moment of inertia, but we did with composite, but that is always, you always use parallel axis theorem, right? So I'm assuming this is with regard to the integration, where depending on the element that you choose, either you just integrate, for example, Ix equal to integration of y square dA, right? Either that, or you have to find integration of dix, and using parallel axis theorem to identify what is dix. I'm assuming that one, right? So this one, you have to understand which element you are using and which equation that you have to choose to use, and based on that equation, one of the equation you have to use or parallel axis theorem, or you can memorize if the element match what you have derived and memorized before, right? Hopefully you go back and make sure this is clear before the final exam. So this topic include all the previous chapters, and it is challenging, and I still confused between frames and machine. Now obviously when we deal with frames and machine, it is combining many of the topics that we have covered before, and the reason why we cover all those topics is to be able to solve question like this, right? Because in the reality, we deal with frames, we deal with machines, and for us to get from zero to be able to solve that, That's why the chapter cover one by one, right? What is equilibrium, equilibrium of a particle, equilibrium of rigid bodies, dealing with support reactions, solving equilibrium problem with equation of equilibrium, 2D, 3D. That is, all of those elements is the items required to be able to solve a real problem, frames, machines, for example, right? So it is combination, right? And in learning, maybe in school sometimes we see it as chapters, right? Chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and suddenly we say, okay, the question will combine all these three chapters, and we say, why? That's difficult. But no, the reason why you have all those individual chapters is actually that is itemized item that you have to be able to understand and use and apply in solving real problem. And real problem is combination of those things, right? The reason why we study by chapter like that is to enable us to learn step by step. That's the only thing. So looking at that, and you know, looking forward to become an engineer, so you shouldn't look at it as a different separate components of chapters, right? And we will make a question specific on that chapter. It is something that resembles real problem, but of course tailored to your level. So frame and machine is one sample of real problem, which to be able to solve it, you have to have all those components. So that's the thing. So it's not weird to have a question like that that combines all the chapters. Frames and machine, there's no need to really be confused about these two, because how to solve frames and machine is exactly the same. The difference is just how it function and you know, how the structure is. But regardless of whether it's frames and machine, how to solve is exactly the same. You know, make sure you can you know, take out all the components, the members, draw the free body diagram and solve. It's exactly the same. So do not need to be that confused between frames and machines. Just that when we learn, because frames, they have different type of structures that we best to familiarize so that we can solve, and machine, there are different type of structures that best for us to familiarize and able to solve, so that we are familiar with two type of structure, right? So that's the thing. But how to solve is exactly the same fundamentals, the same principles applied to different form of structure, right? And this is the last one. The video from the topic internal forces in 2D is quite short and has just one simple question for the example. Hence, I need to watch the tutorial to get another sample of questions. The topic that we cover on that portion is really very short, and because the examples are the way I do the lecture video in this course so far is that I straightway just use the flow of the slides. And for that portion on chapter 7, it is very short. That's why the video is short. I hope most students are happy with that, because early on there are complaints that some lecture videos are long. So when it's short, I hope it's not a problem. And it's easy and straightforward to understand as well. So that one example is sufficient. Of course, if you want to solve or see how other type of question is solved, you have the tutorial video. So those are the comments and feedbacks within this past I think 2 or 3 weeks. I don't remember when was the last time I did this video. So yeah, there's not that many feedbacks as per previous video. So I hope generally everyone is doing well and fine, and do give feedback if you need for anything. But some of the things I think it's best if you just raise during the sessions where I'm on standby to address any of your concern, questions, etc., right? So that I can comment there and then and help you with it. Yeah, wallahu alam. So that's it for this video. See you in class, inshallah.